When Keanu Reeves steps onto Vanessa Cross's talk show, the audience braces for yet another uplifting conversation. But Vanessa isn't chasing inspiration tonight. She's here to confront, dig deep and unearth the most hidden parts of Keanu's story. From the moment he takes his seat, though, something feels different. Vanessa clutches her cue cards with a sly smirk. What should have been a peaceful exchange might erupt into something far more explosive. Yet what Vanessa doesn't realize is that within moments, she'll be the one left speechless. What Keanu reveals tonight will change the room, and no one watching will forget it. Before we dive in, let us know where you're tuning in from. And if stories like this speak to you, make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow brings another unforgettable chapter. The studio is packed. Harsh, brilliant lights flood the stage, highlighting every detail of the sleek set. In the heart of the grand auditorium, the audience buzzes, their voices hushed but electric. Bright signs shimmer in the crowd. Keanu, you inspire us, thanks for being real. Backstage motion intensifies, producers signaling, cameras locking into position. A silent countdown flickers across screens. The glow of stage lights paints the curtain in gold, wrapping the scene in cinematic tension. Then he enters. Keanu Reeves strides across the stage with composed, deliberate steps. He carries a quiet power and authenticity that sets him apart from Hollywood glamour. Dressed in a simple black shirt, a modest blazer, and worn-in jeans, he radiates humility. His long dark hair brushes his shoulders, and a soft, steady smile rests on his face. The crowd erupts. Some shout his name. Others just watch, awestruck. There's something calming, yet profoundly stirring about him. Keanu lifts a hand in understated thanks and takes his seat in the spotlight. The energy in the room vibrates with respect and curiosity. Across from him sits Vanessa Cross, poised, sharp, formidable, known for her biting interviews and relentless pursuit of truth. She's not afraid to draw blood. With a tailored blazer and her hair pinned immaculately back, Vanessa holds her stack of question cards like weapons. Her eyes narrow slightly, her smile small but calculated. She studies him, then leans in. Her voice, cool and clipped, cuts through the silence. Keanu, you've got fame, fortune, every luxury at your fingertips. And yet you ride the subway, give millions away, avoid the spotlight. Does that really change anything? A hush falls. The question hangs heavy. Some audience members shift, clearly uncomfortable. Others sit in suspense. Keanu doesn't flinch. Calm and still, he lets the silence stretch. Then gently he meets Vanessa's gaze. Vanessa, he says softly, have you ever thought about how many people feel invisible? The words land like a ripple across still water. The crowd falls utterly quiet. Faces soften. A few blink rapidly, caught off guard by the depth packed into such a simple statement. Vanessa raises an eyebrow, slightly thrown. She expected deflection, maybe discomfort, but not this kind of grace. Still, she isn't finished. Not even close. She flips the next card between her fingers, eyes gleaming. The hardest question is yet to come. She leans in again, sharper this time. Vanessa Cross has built a career exposing cracks in even the most polished facades. She isn't here to be moved. She adjusts her posture with deliberate elegance and lets the silence linger. Then she slides the card onto the table and delivers the blow. You lost your fiancé, your child, your best friend. Didn't that break you? Don't you think in the end, everything is just pain? The air is sucked from the room. A few audience members gasp. Others go completely still, their expressions caught between sympathy and disbelief. Keanu lowers his gaze. His fingers lock loosely over his knees. Silence stretches painfully. The cameras zoom in. His face, usually peaceful, now carries something else. A shadow of grief, years old but never forgotten. A sea of sorrow that words can't reach. Vanessa watches him poised like a hawk, waiting for him to waver, to flinch, to reveal something she can seize. But Keanu lifts his head, slowly, calmly. He breathes in and speaks. Pain didn't destroy me. It taught me that nothing lasts forever, that every second matters, and that real love never fades. No one moves. No one speaks. The audience is frozen, eyes wide, some shimmering with tears. A woman in the front discreetly wipes her cheek. Even those unfamiliar with his past feel the ache in his voice. The camera turns to Vanessa. For the first time, she falters. Her sharp smile wavers. Something unspoken flickers in her eyes, surprise, maybe even remorse. But Vanessa Cross isn't known for surrendering so easily. Vanessa Cross straightens her posture, her shoulders rising as she conceals any trace of uncertainty, her fingers gliding deliberately over the stack of question cards in her hand. Her next move is already calculated, her strategy locked in. This time she intends to catch Keanu Reeves off guard, to strike at a vulnerability he won't see coming. But Vanessa is not one to surrender easily. She's holding on to one final ace, a question crafted to expose Keanu's deepest weakness and diminish his relevance in the eyes of Hollywood. The studio still hums with the aftershock of the previous exchange. The audience quieter now, some still processing Keanu's profound words. Yet Vanessa has no intention of easing her pace. She squares her shoulders, summons her polished, composed smile, and methodically flips through the cards, as though weighing her options. In truth, she knows precisely what she's about to ask. Leaning forward ever so slightly, her eyes narrow with the precision of a hunter sizing up her prey. Her tone shifts. It's no longer overtly confrontational, but laced with a calculated edge, like a trap being set with care. "Keanu," she begins, her voice steady. "You're over 50 now. Hollywood has a way of discarding actors your age. Aren't you afraid of becoming irrelevant?" The question lands like a blade, sharp and unapologetic. The audience reacts instantly, some murmur in shock, others shift uncomfortably, unsettled by the bluntness. Keanu, however, doesn't respond right away. His fingers brush lightly against each other, a thoughtful gesture, and his gaze drifts briefly, as though he's slipped into a memory only he can access. Vanessa notices the pause and allows herself a fleeting inward smile. This, she thinks, is the moment she's been waiting for. Then Keanu lifts his eyes, meeting hers directly. His face is serene, but there's a gravity in his expression that catches everyone off guard. "Vanessa," he says softly, "have you ever watched a sunset?" The journalist blinks, thrown by the unexpected pivot. The audience too seems puzzled, leaning forward as if trying to decipher where he's going. Keanu continues, his voice gentle yet rich with meaning. "A sunset is breathtaking, isn't it? But has anyone ever called it irrelevant just because the night follows?" The studio erupts. Applause thunders through the room, punctuated by shouts of "Yes" and "Bravo, Keanu." The energy is electric, the crowd swept up in the beauty of his response. Vanessa freezes, her control over the interview slipping through her fingers like sand. Her carefully rehearsed smile falters, replaced by an expression that's hard to read. Shock, perhaps tinged with a reluctant flicker of respect. Keanu hasn't lashed out or met her aggression with his own. Instead, he's transformed her attack into something poetic, something undeniable. For a moment, the entire framework of the interview seems to collapse under the weight of his words. Vanessa takes a deep breath, her fingers tightening around the cards as she tries to regain her footing. Her plan to unsettle him isn't working, but she's not ready to concede. If he's unfazed by the fear of irrelevance, perhaps she can dig deeper, probing something more personal, his childhood, his past. The studio still buzzes from Keanu's sunset metaphor, the audience now regarding him with a newfound reverence. He hasn't just answered her questions, he's turned each jab into a moment of reflection, a quiet lesson in resilience. But Vanessa Cross isn't done. Her show thrives on confrontation, on putting celebrities in the hot seat, not on inspiring epiphanies. She can feel the interview slipping from her grasp, and it fuels her frustration. She needs to take back control. Picking up the next card, she holds it for a moment as if deliberating, though she's already decided her next move. Leaning forward, her voice is firm, but there's a cold, almost surgical precision to it. "Keanu," she says, "you grew up without a father. Your mother struggled to raise you. Haven't you ever felt anger about that?" The question hits like a sudden chill. The audience shifts, some frowning as they recognize the personal nature of the attack. Vanessa is reaching for an old wound, hoping to expose a crack in his composure. Keanu, however, doesn't flinch. He expected this. Taking a slow breath, he looks not at Vanessa but somewhere beyond her, as if sifting through memories long buried. After a moment, he offers a small, thoughtful smile. "My father taught me something valuable," he says. Vanessa blinks, caught off guard. This isn't the response she anticipated. Keanu meets her gaze and continues, his voice steady. "He showed me the kind of man I didn't want to be. My mother, she taught me how to survive." Silence envelops the studio like a heavy fog, a profound stillness that seems to hold every breath captive. A woman in the audience stifles a quiet sob, her shoulders trembling as she is overwhelmed by the raw, unfiltered honesty woven into Keanu's words. Others around her exchange fleeting glances, their eyes reflecting a shared awe, moved to the core by the simplicity and profound depth of his response. For the first time in the interview, Vanessa hesitates, her usual confidence wavering like a candle flame in a sudden draft. This encounter was supposed to be a meticulously planned chess game, with her orchestrating every move, dictating the rhythm and controlling the narrative. But Keanu isn't playing by her carefully crafted rules. He doesn't lash out with anger or retreat into defensiveness. Instead, he transforms her pointed provocations into universal truths that resonate far beyond the confines of the stage. Vanessa's fingers hover uncertainly over the stack of question cards, her mind racing as she struggles to recalibrate. Her well-honed strategies are beginning to unravel, thread by thread. Yet she clings to one final play, a question so deeply personal and piercing that it's designed to cut deeper than ever before, forcing Keanu to confront the inescapable reality of his own mortality. The air in the studio crackles with an unspoken tension, a palpable energy that pulses through the room. The audience isn't merely watching an interview anymore. They're bearing witness to something far more profound, a dialogue that transcends the typical celebrity, sparring and delves into the essence of human experience. Keanu Reeves has met every challenge with a calm that borders on meditative, his responses turning Vanessa's sharpest, most aggressive questions into reflections that leave the crowd in a state of silent reverence and awe. But Vanessa Cross is far from ready to concede. Her mind turns relentlessly, replaying every tactic that has failed to crack his composure, every attempt to peel back the layers of his enigmatic facade to reveal the vulnerabilities she's certain lie beneath. She's renowned for breaking even the most stoic and seasoned guests, for stripping away their public personas with surgical precision. Yet Keanu remains unshaken, his kindness and humility only deepening into an enigma that grows more captivating with each passing moment. She adjusts her blazer with a deliberate motion, pulling her shoulders back to reclaim her posture, and leans forward slightly. Her voice, when it finally emerges, is quieter than before, stripped of its earlier bravado, but laced with a chilling undercurrent that sends a shiver through the room. "Keanu," she says, her tone measured yet icy, "don't you ever feel fear? Time spares no one. Have you ever stopped to think about what happens when your time runs out?" The studio falls into an even deeper silence, a hush so complete it feels as though the world has paused. This moment transcends Hollywood gossip or fleeting fame. It touches on something universal, something inescapable that binds every soul in the room. Keanu tilts his head slightly, his expression unreadable, a canvas of quiet contemplation. He doesn't deflect with a laugh or brush it off with a rehearsed line. Instead, he breathes deeply, allowing the silence to stretch and fill the space, drawing every eye toward him. Vanessa holds her breath, her chest tightening as the audience leans forward, hanging on the edge of their seats waiting for his response. Then he speaks, his voice soft yet carrying a weight that seems to echo through the studio. "Vanessa, do you know the difference between fear and faith?" The question catches her completely off guard, her lips pressing together in a thin line as she searches for a way to regain her footing. She had anticipated a defensive retort, perhaps a vague, media-trained platitude designed to sidestep the issue. Not this. For the first time in the interview, she finds herself without a quick, cutting comeback. Her gaze drops to the cards clutched in her hands, but the words scrawled across them suddenly feel hollow, devoid of the power she once attributed to them. Her carefully laid traps, her psychological warfare, they're irrelevant now, rendered meaningless by the shift Keanu has orchestrated. He has dismantled her meticulously constructed chessboard, transforming the interview into something she hadn't prepared for, a profound conversation about the very nature of existence itself. As she stares down at her notes, a slow realization dawns, creeping into her consciousness like the first light of dawn. There's one final question she feels compelled to ask, something even more piercing, a last-ditch effort to unearth a vulnerability she's convinced must exist. She lifts her eyes to meet his, her gaze steady but her voice barely audible, a whisper heavy with intent and laced with a tremor of desperation. "And what if no one remembers you when you're gone?" The question lands like a stone dropped into the still waters of a lake, its ripples spreading outward, touching every corner of the studio. The audience holds its collective breath, sensing the immense weight of her words, the raw challenge embedded within them. This is a question designed to unravel, to expose the deepest fear of oblivion, to strip away the illusion of permanence. But Keanu doesn't falter. A soft smile crosses his face, not the polished, rehearsed grin of a Hollywood star, but something genuine, almost serene, radiating a quiet wisdom. He takes a slow, deliberate breath, his voice steady and unwavering as ever. "The question isn't what they'll remember about me," he says, pausing just long enough for the words to settle into the silence like falling leaves. "The question is, what will they remember about you?" A murmur ripples through the crowd. Soft gasps mingling with a stunned silence that blankets the room. Some audience members sit back as if physically struck by the unexpected reversal, their expressions a mixture of shock and admiration. The camera zooms in on Vanessa's face, capturing every nuance of her reaction. For the first time, the woman who has built an illustrious career, dismantling public figures with her relentless questions, looks utterly lost. Her lips part slightly, but no words escape. Her usual arsenal of witty retorts failing her. Her fingers tighten around the edges of the cards, though she doesn't glance down at them, as if realizing they no longer hold the power she once believed. She has no prepared response, no counterattack to wield. The silence stretches on, thick and unbroken, and then, unexpectedly, a single tear traces a slow path down her cheek. She doesn't move to wipe it away, allowing it to glisten under the studio lights. The camera lingers, capturing the subtle tremor in her throat, the faint shift in her breathing, as if something heavy and transformative has settled deep within her soul. Keanu watches her, his gaze steady and devoid of triumph or judgment, replaced instead by a quiet, almost paternal compassion that softens the intensity of the moment. He rises to his feet, the studio now hushed, the earlier bursts of applause replaced by a contemplative stillness that hangs in the air like a gentle mist. Some audience members wipe away lingering tears, their faces reflecting a mix of emotion, while others sit motionless, lost in their own thoughts, the weight of Keanu's words sinking in. Vanessa remains seated, her body still as a statue. The cards, once her weapons, her shields, lying abandoned on the table before her. She no longer reaches for them. Or perhaps in this moment of clarity, she's come to the realization that they were never the source of her strength. The cameras continue to roll, the world beyond the studio walls still watching, but Vanessa's mind is adrift, unmoored from the professional facade she's worn for years. Keanu's words echo relentlessly in her thoughts. The question is, what will they remember about you? Her reflection glimmers faintly in the polished surface of the table, a distorted mirror of the woman she's become. For years, she's wielded sharp questions and relentless probing like a sculptor's chisel, believing that exposing the flaws and vulnerabilities of others elevated her own power and solidified her untouchable status. Now, in the wake of Keanu's responses, she finds herself confronted with her own legacy, a mirror held up to her soul that she can no longer ignore. The screen begins to fade to black, the light dimming as if to signal the end of a chapter, and a final message appears in elegant, white text against the darkness. Life is not about how long we live, but the impact we leave behind. Soft, reflective music swells in the background, its gentle notes weaving through the silence, carrying a sense of closure and introspection. The video draws to an end, leaving a lingering invitation to like, comment, and share if the story has touched the viewer's heart or sparked a moment of personal reflection.